Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here, once again, to review another Bette Davis movie. This is my next Bette Davis movie in the week of Bette Davis movies. And this movie represents the 1940s, because what I did was I wanted to pick like 6 or 7 movies of hers, and one in each decade. Obviously, I started off with The Bad Sister. That was the 20s. And then I did, what was the last one called? The one I just, Hell's House. Hell's House was the 30s. And this movie is the 40s. And this is The Little Foxes. I wanted to watch A Stolen Life, actually, but I couldn't find it to watch for free, so I just decided I'll watch this movie instead. Okay? That's what I decided. And it is also a special day because it is April 5th, which is Bette Davis's birthday. If she was still alive, she would be however many years old. Who knows? In her hundreds. So this is her birthday. And to celebrate, I can't wait to talk about this movie. So first off, this was apparently a play first. It was a book, I guess. Then it was a play, and then it was a movie, which is very common, especially back then. You have a lot of movies. They're based off of something that's based off of something, which is pretty funny. You know how people today, they complain about, like, all these movies just being based off of things, none of them really being original. But the thing is that that's really how it's always been. You have a lot of movies that are just based off of things that have already existed. Like, I just watched an X-Files episode, and it's based off of some Indian folklore of some kind, fakir, whatever that is, fakirs. And it's based off of that. But that's still good, you know, just because it's based off of something, that doesn't mean it's good. And I would also like to point out that this is my first ever William Wyler film. I have never seen a movie of his until now, and so that was pretty cool, actually, to watch that, because I've never seen any of his movies, and he's such a famous director, you know, the name William Wyler. It's such a classic, like, Hollywood type of name. Like, that's really a perfect name for a director to have, William Wyler. Like, what a cool, like, swazzy... Wait, swazzy? What does swazzy mean? I don't know. It's a swazzy type of name. And in the play, now the play actually plays a very important part in the film. Because in the play of this movie, Tallulah Bankhead played the main woman. I already forgot everyone's names, because the only character's name I remember is Horace, because she keeps on saying, Horace, dear, Horace, I want to talk business, Horace. You know, everyone just keeps saying Horace the whole movie. They never even say Horace. They always say Horace. And so, you got Horace, and his wife, played by Bette Davis, can't remember her name. I don't know. I'm not even going to attempt to remember it, because I don't want to spend this review wasting time with that. But in the play, she is played by Tallulah Bankhead, and honestly, I like Tallulah Bankhead more than Bette Davis, I think. I mean, just in Lifeboat alone, she's like a million times better than what I've seen from Bette Davis so far, and she's a lot prettier too, which I know that's not really supposed to be an issue, but it's just my personal opinion of, like, I kind of like Tallulah more. Betty, as she gets older, she gets worse and worse. And this movie starts her her decline. You know, she looked good in the 20s, she looked good in the 30s, and this is the start of her decline. And I really think part of the reason why she got so ugly is because she plays these ugly characters. And I think when you play ugly characters, you can kind of start to look ugly on the outside, because people don't realize, but feelings and inner emotions and things like that, they all manifest themselves in your looks, okay? When I was a teenager, I had really bad acne, and I thought it would never go away, and I would stress out about it all the time, and I get yelled at and told not to put my hands on my face, and not to sleep on my hands when I'm sleeping, like not to rest my head on my hands, and I'd have to get my hair cut a certain way to make sure that the hair wouldn't get in my face, and so the grease wouldn't get in my face. And I had to use this experimental cream called Epiduo in order to try to get rid of it. And it's funny because once I started not caring and started to like not even think about it, that's when I started to look better, and when the acne went away was when I started to just not care. And in this movie, you know, she's playing a very evil woman, Bette Davis is, and I really think that part of the reason why she got so ugly when she was older, which we'll talk about her looks when we get to the future movies. But I think part of the reason is just because she's playing these ugly characters. Like, maybe that's the reason I thought she was more attractive in one of her last movies, Whales of August, because she was playing a character who was a kind of a good person for the most part. She was a Debbie Downer, but she was just sad that she was getting older. But she was more of a nicer person. So yeah, I just like to say that. That's kind of like a little side tangent about just in general. I think that kind of can happen if also you take the roles too seriously. And actors, you know, good ones, they should take the roles too seriously so that they can do good jobs. And so, in the play, though, apparently Tallulah played the character more sympathetic. And in the movie, Bette Davis wanted to play a completely different character where she is cold, manipulative, and evil. And so it was very, very bizarre when you found this out after the movie, because to me, I couldn't imagine the movie without Bette Davis and her evil character, you know? Like, I couldn't imagine watching The Little Foxes with like a sympathetic character. But I do have to say, if that's what was originally intended, it probably would have made for a better movie as a whole. But really, the best part of this movie is Bette Davis. So I don't know. You know, would I take the movie with the character who's more likable, or would I still want to keep this, where you have this evil bitch Bette Davis playing this really evil person, like really, really bad, really like just ugh. And we'll get to talking about her. So this movie, and also I'd like to say it's really too bad that there isn't any radio version of the Tallulah Bankhead performance, because honestly, I love Tallulah Bankhead, and so I'd love to see her performance as this character, because it's a different actress, so I'd love to see her. And I think that that's sad that all we can see are pictures of the performance. So I thought that was a downer. Because honestly, the only way I'd really ever watch this movie again is to see that different performance. I wouldn't really want to watch this again to see this movie again. So the movie is all about a family. this Southern family in the year 1900, and they've got all this business and cotton mills and stuff like that. And you have this husband, Horace, and he's sick. He's terminally ill. And you have his wife, Tallulah. Not Tallulah. It's too bad it wasn't Tallulah. You have his wife, which is Bette Davis. And she and some brothers in the family, they are conspiring together to steal money and get rich and basically take over the family as the husband is dying. And honestly, it sounds like it would be a pretty good movie. Like, I was really excited to watch it. I thought that it sounded like it would be the probably the best movie of the 3 I've watched so far, which the first one wasn't that great, but it was still good. The second one was fantastic, but this was really the worst one so far. I'm really not that enthusiastic about even talking about this movie. I wanted to like it, I guess. I mean, it's I don't really like these, like, Southern family movies, like, where it's like, oh, look, there's a Southern family, and wow, they're so interesting because they have business and stuff. Like, that's what this movie is. Like, this is 2 hours, too. This is 2 hours of people in suits sitting around talking about business. And if that's what you like, then you'll like this movie. That's not what I like, okay? I like stuff, okay? I like it. I like watching movies where things happen. And for most of the movie, nothing really happens at all. I didn't even really know what was going on because I was so bored. Like, I was like, okay, if I wasn't drinking G Fuel, which I drink every day, if I wasn't drinking G Fuel, I would have fallen asleep watching this trash. But it's not terrible. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. But the problem is that nothing really interested me at all. This was like The Godfather without any of the interesting parts. Like, this is The Godfather without the take the cannoli scene. This is The Godfather without all the murder scenes. This is The Godfather without anything, really. I mean, this movie is so bare and basic. It advertises itself as this, like, complex, like, hardcore, dramatic movie. But then you watch it and it's like, God, I'm going to fall asleep. This is trash. This is like something I watch on a boring, rainy Sunday afternoon while I'm sitting in the living room doing a puzzle and having some fucking tea and cookies and shit. I mean, this is not it. This movie is just very dull. This review is probably not even going to get me any views. That's another fucking thing. And it's like, what the hell? Like, this was not worth it. This was not worth it. However, if I had paid to see this movie in the 40s, I wouldn't have been unhappy, because I'd love to go to the 40s and pay to see all their movies, because I knew that back then they put effort into their movies and they knew what they were actually doing. But Bette Davis, her performance as the mother was really, really fantastic. I loved her performance. It was a pretty good performance. You know, it's probably her least good performance so far, because, I don't know, it's like, you just look at her and it's like, ugh. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she doesn't really have any dimensions to her at all. Like, that's something to say, is that even if the character in the play was more sympathetic, maybe the trick was that the play's version of this character had more dimensions, more depth to her. You know, maybe she had more layers to her character. This character in this movie she doesn't really have anything at all. Like, she's just like so basic. All the characters are so basic and bare. Like, they're just so general. They're just stereotypes. They're boring stereotypes. Like, you have the Southern woman, and she's so smart, and she's gonna outsmart all the men, and she's gonna take over the family. Then you have the husband, and he's not that good because he sucks. He's a weakling, and he's not as powerful as her. And then you have some other slimy men who are really, like, they're greedy too, and so they're opportunists with her. And then you have the daughter, she's poor and innocent, and it's like, these are just such boring characters. Like, they're really the only reason why they're any good to watch is because of the actors. Like, the actors are all good. Now, let's talk about the most impressive things about the movie, because I know I'm being a little mean, and I don't want to be that mean, because I want to support more movies like this where they actually put effort into making them. You know, like, even with all my criticisms, you know, a lot of people like this movie. A lot of people think this is great, and so that's great. You know, it's just that I personally didn't care for it. But one of the great things was the daughter. The daughter, the actress who played her, she did a very good job for this being her first movie. And I think she also got an Oscar nomination too. And so I will have to say I was very impressed with that. I thought that she did a damn good job for this being her first movie. I couldn't tell that at all. And that's another thing with these older movies, is that the actors are so good that you can't even tell that these are their first movies. Like, I watched Bette Davis's first movie. To me, in that movie, I couldn't tell that was her first movie. And in this movie, I couldn't tell that daughter's movie was her first movie. And so I think that that's pretty cool too, is that you see all these older actors and you can't even tell that they're their first movies. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's pretty impressive to me. So I like that. I really liked learning that, and stuff like that is what I like about watching these movies too, is getting to celebrate really when people do a good job at their craft, and to show bad actors and bad filmmakers like this is the standard. Like, you think that Avengers Endgame is the standard. You think that all these stupid, mindless, pointless trash movies like, I don't know, Monsters Ball, fucking Twilight, Harry Potter, you think all these modern movies are the standard? No. Movies like The Little Foxes are the standard, because you could tell they put effort into this. There's a lot of intricate things in the movie that, even though I didn't care for them, still I can recognize they tried, and it was dull. Like, the whole movie is like just these boring conversations, business conversations. Like, oh, I heard that guy had some bonds and some stocks, and I heard that guy had a chest full of money. And we are going to go into the cotton business. Are you going to go into the cotton? We got to go into that cotton part. It's like, I don't care. I don't care at all. I don't care. So that was all dull to me. There were a couple of scenes, though, that I loved, that were really standout scenes. And because of these standout scenes, actually, I ranked the movie higher than a lot of other movies than I would have. So I will say that this movie had some standout scenes that I was impressed with. And one of those scenes was when the husband, Harris, when he first came home, Bette Davis had this really great scene where she wants to talk about business with him. And she literally just keeps repeating it over and over again. And he's sitting there with, like, his rich friends and family, and they're all, like, really, like, embarrassed that this woman, she's, like, wearing a dress that, like, they don't approve of, and she's, like, talking down to him. She's like, Horace, I want to talk business right now. I want to talk about business right now. You will talk to me right this moment, Mr. Horace. I am waiting. And it's really funny because, like, she's just completely humiliating this sick man. And she's just like, Horace! Okay, big boy. From Hell's House. And so I love that scene. That scene was really good. See, these scenes, if the whole movie had scenes like that, I would have liked the movie. But there were only a couple of interesting scenes. And then the next one, so this is going to be spoilers. Oh, well, before I do spoilers for the movie, I would like to say I really like the servant characters, actually. It's one of those movies where, you know, all the black people are like servants in the house, which, you know, apparently that's racist. But I thought that they all did a really good job. I actually liked them a lot. Like, I could have watched a whole movie about, like, the servants, because they were very energetic and they were very cool and charming. And, like, they were just, like, a lot more interesting and a lot more human than these rich people characters. Like, this family is dull. Like, they are a very boring family. And honestly, this just made me upset because I would love to watch a 2-hour movie of the family from The Bad Sister. You know, that family was a family that I would watch a TV show out of them. But instead I had to watch this 2-hour movie about these very boring characters, this boring family. They're, like, in the cotton business. Like, just, who cares? Like, just, they're boring as hell. They're not interesting very much compared to the Bad Sister family. So I will say that, like, I was saddened by that, but I did like the servants. They were pretty cool. There wasn't really a lot to talk about with them, but they were all pretty cool. And honestly, I would have liked to have seen a movie about them, because I bet that they'd have more interesting stories to tell than this boring, like, 2-hour business discussion. Like, it's just 2 hours of people talking business and family crap. And it's like, I want to see the servants and what kind of stories they have to tell about, like, this family. Maybe they could give you the highlights of this boring-ass family. You know, maybe they could be like, well, audience, there's this part in 1800s where Bette Davis actually sucked me off because I made such good mashed potatoes. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there'd be stuff like that. And I say that because there's a part in the movie where there's a servant and he's just, like, handing out mashed potatoes. It's just pretty funny. And I gotta say, like, in terms of blowjobs, like, am I the only one who thinks, like, Bette Davis has the best blowjob face ever? Like, I just look at her face and her, like, big pouty lips and her big bulging eyes. And it's like, yeah, she really does have the best BJ face I've ever seen. Like, especially if she wore that cake face makeup that she wears in this movie. Well, okay. Now, that is a tough question. Please answer this. Which one would be better? Okay, you have raw Betty. That is Betty without makeup, which is probably not something you want to see. It's like something in the movie Tourist Trap. Then you have the silent era Betty look, which is a very beautiful, natural look. I love it. I love the way she looked in those. And then you have this look, which is basically like a monster. She basically looks like a person, like, you know, when in Mrs. Doubtfire, when she dips her head in the vanilla cake. You know, that's kind of what Betty looks like in this movie. You know, very creepy, very unsettling, but in like a sexy way. You know, kind of like she's some sort of like an inhuman blowjob monster or something. Honestly, that's tough. Like, I think that I would prefer that's tough. I think probably the Betty in this movie would do the better blowjob, because she give it like a mean blowjob. You know, she would be like, Horace, I want to talk business, but before we talk business, I'm gonna give you your anniversary present. And then she'd give like a mean blowjob and be like, and it'd be pretty insane. You know, it'd probably be really sloppy too. And so I think, I don't know, this is a hard question, like literally and figuratively. Like, I don't even think the Riddler could figure out this question, like, because on one hand, like, I definitely prefer her silent movie look. But on the other hand, I think, okay, I'm going to just say it to move on. I think, yeah, she has the perfect blowjob face, especially in this movie. Definitely more than the silent era Betty. But I probably prefer to date the silent era Betty, because she has more of like a natural look in those movies. So yeah, I just had to say that. You know, I've been thinking about that the whole time, and sometimes I just gotta say what's on my mind, no matter how objectionable my behavior is. You know, because you know that if there was more of an audience for this channel, there'd be so many little bitch-ass complainers saying, like, why do you guys support this horrible man? He says very objectionable things. It's 2022. You know, they'd say shit like that. But anyways, back to the movie. So yeah, I just had to get that out there. And now for the spoilers. Really, I am going to do my food review, but I just thought, you know, there's a lot of people, they want to see this movie, so I'm going to talk about some spoiler scenes that I loved that were near the end. Now, you guys know how I've talked about the Bette Davis stare. Basically, Bette Davis is one of those actors where she's so good that she can just stare and she can act without even talking. Which is too bad, honestly, because I have a scene in my movie script that I'm working on right now, that I'm working on making, and it is a scene a lot like the scene in this movie where Bette Davis sits there and she has a conversation with Horace, and then Horace gets out of his wheelchair and he needs his medicine, and he's trying to get to his medicine and he's dying. And it's this very uncomfortable, dark, creepy scene where Betty is just sitting there watching as her husband hobbles off camera to get to his medicine. And it is probably one of the greatest scenes I've ever seen. And it just shows, like, these scenes without dialogue, they are epic. And I had a scene almost exactly like this, where there's a character and she's sitting and she's just listening to something happen, and she just sits there and reacts and doesn't say anything. And it's too bad, because I really think that Bette Davis would have been the perfect actress to play that in this movie script that I wrote. Now that I saw this movie, you know, just how good she was without saying anything. Like, she's very sexy, yes, but like her acting of just like, she's just watching, looking, and she's just thinking, like, she's happy that her husband is dying and that he can't get to his medicine. It's like, it's very dark, but it's such a good scene. And, like, I love that scene. I loved that scene. It was such a perfect scene in this very, very dull movie. And where I just kept on losing interest until these scenes came up. So I love that. And see, now I'm going to actually probably have the actress who I end up casting, I'm going to have her watch this movie, or at least watch that scene to see how I want her to act. And actually, now that I think about it too, I had dialogue that I wrote for her in the scene where she's sitting there reacting to something. And I think now I'm just going to take all the dialogue out of the scene because I see that now that it's not really even necessary. You know, as these writer people said, you know, if dialogue isn't necessary, don't have it. Or I think Hitchcock might have talked about that, but that is a big filmmaking lesson that modern filmmakers, they need to learn, is that, you know, if dialogue isn't necessary, then do not have dialogue, because it's only going to weigh down the film, and especially if it's bad or if it's delivered bad, it weighs down the film. And so you can actually improve your film just by taking out dialogue that might be meaningless and might kind of destroy what's good. And so, and yet again, you know, I'd also like to point out it's another old movie where the female characters are literally the best part of the movie. And so I'm so sick of these fucking loser ass SJWs and their feelings about their little oh, I just saw some news. Got really excited about that, what I just saw. Thanks, Elon Musk. Good job, buddy. And so the female characters, they're the best part of the movie. And so we have another 40s movie where it's like, oh, I thought 40s movies were just these sexist, racist things where, you know, the women are just completely dependent on the men. You know, it's just bullshit what these people say. It's like they created this alternate Hollywood history that they want to pretend like that's real so that they can be happy about all the destruction they've caused nowadays. And my last favorite scene was the ending scene. Basically, Betty and her daughter have a little talk. The daughter knows that her mom is fucking evil and that she let her husband die. And then Betty walks upstairs to her bedroom. And honestly, this scene kind of reminded me of Psycho, because the daughter, she did a really good job in the final scene especially. I really liked her. She walks out to leave with this guy who is going to marry her. He's kind of a boring side character, another boring guy. And she looks down from her bedroom at the couple, and she just looks so evil. And it's this really creepy shot where they show her face in the window, and then the lights turn down, and her face just becomes like a silhouette. And I thought, like, wow, that was a great ending shot. Like, that, it was so subtle, and it was just so, like, simple of, like, oh, this woman watches through a window, and her face becomes like a dark shape. Like, it's that simple, and that's the ending of the movie. I thought that was great. I thought that was perfect, actually. That was really awesome. So basically, this movie is a very dull, boring movie where the only thing that really uplifts it is Bette Davis and the daughter and their performances. And even, like, the husband, he did a pretty good job, except for he was basically sick the whole movie. It's this boring business crap. And of course, Bette Davis, she gets everything. And there was a really good quote too. Okay, there's two quotes I want to discuss. There was one quote that I thought was a really, really good quote a quote no writer would ever come up with nowadays. And the daughter said that there's some people who eat the world, and then there's other people who watch them eat the world. And I thought, wow, that is a great quote. That is a really good quote. That almost made me want to clap about how such a fucking awesome quote that was. And then there's another really funny bad quote, though. There's a really funny quote where the boyfriend of the daughter, he says, you know, the white people may have the piano, but the colored people really have the voices. I thought that was the stupidest, but it was so funny. And it's like, okay, I guess in every older movie, there might be one little thing here and there that, you know, you could say, you could laugh at. Like in the Hell's House, you had the kid saying, eeny, miny, mo, catch the M-word by his toe. And then in this one, you have, the white people may have the piano, but the colored people have the voices. You know, because they have soul, like they said in Putney Swope. In terms of food, though, what I was really reminded of by Bette Davis and her ugly-ass cake face, but it's like, it's ugly and it's hot at the same time. Like, it's really confusing to me, actually. But because of her cake face, I really have to rate this movie a vanilla cake with vanilla frosting. And there's this supermarket that I go to a lot. It's like a rich supermarket. It's like a snobby rich supermarket. I go there like once a week or so. And every couple of weeks, I get like a cake slice or two that they have. They're pretty cheap. They're like $4 a piece. And they're pretty sizable, so you could share it with someone. And they have a vanilla cake with vanilla frosting, and it's just very dull, but the icing is pretty damn good because, you know, icing is always pretty damn good. Icing always uplifts even the worst cakes, and this was just a pretty dull, boring vanilla movie. I really didn't think that there was anything that exciting about it except those couple of scenes. So yeah, I didn't like this movie that much. It was kind of boring, kind of pointless. So, happy birthday, Bette Davis. I am not going to have any birthday cake today. I'll have a piece of tiramisu, though. So please like this video. Comment, what did you think of the movie? I know people love the movie. I don't, so sorry. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more Bette Davis movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.